Hey everybody, welcome to this installment of the Booze Briefing. This is episode number 27. Here, I'll be a Marine at 27. This is not a normal episode. This is gonna be a different episode. So there's no new booze, there's no dunking stuff into the bourbon, no talking about the MRE challenge, which yes, it's over here, it's still going on, okay? This is a different episode. I'm sitting here sipping something I tried a while back, which I fell in love with, the Tennessee 10 from Bibb & Tucker, 10-year. Whoa, smooth, good stuff. You're asking yourself right now, hopefully, why isn't he doing a new bourbon? Because this episode is different. This is a celebration. I keep stuff like the classic, the Tennessee 10, the classic stuff under the bar for when it's time to celebrate. And I'm celebrating today. Why? Because I'm gonna reveal the cover of Joe's Volume 3 and tell you the availability release date on Amazon, which is faster and sooner than you might think. I'm pretty pleased by it. But listen, before we get started, give us a like, a share, a follow on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're finding us, okay? Every book we sell helps raise money and awareness for American Gold Star mothers, as most of you know. It's a cause that's near and dear to my heart, okay? So hook us up, give us a comment on the videos, on the post, give us a review on Amazon. If you've read the books, you liked them, you don't even have to put in, a text review. I'd love for you to write up, what you thought of the book, but just click the stars, right? Just give us a review. The more we sell, the more we are able to help American Gold Star mothers. So there you go. Email address is above my head. You got drink recommendations. You want to talk about the books. You got a question about the books, the characters, the people who are in these books, the real people, the real stories. You want to send me a recommendation on something to dunk in my bourbon. Hey, hook me up. Right there. All right, there you go. All right. So again, no pour of the day, just sipping on something I did in a very early episode here on the Booze Briefing. The Bibb & Tucker Small Batch Tennessee 10-year. Man, fantastic stuff, if you can find it. So I guess you guys want to see the cover, huh? Well, I'm holding here a proof copy of the book, but I'll put the cover off to my right, and there you see it. There's the cover. Pardon the my copy of the book, the not for resale proof copy stamp that goes across the middle. This is the cover of Joe's Volume 3. It's been, gosh, I don't know, 16 months in the making. I wrote the first book, I think, in 6 months, and I think the second one took about 8 years before I could finally get it out the door due to some life circumstances. But this one took me about 16 months. You're going to notice a couple of things on the cover. Obviously, the Joes, the Cold War Diaries, and the cool little trick with the hammer and sickle over there on the 3. If you know, you know. I'm talking to you, Ivan, okay? But what's the significance of the red boots hanging from the Joe's logo? Well, guess you're gonna have to buy the book and find out, because that's a true story too, the red boots. And it's in the book. You'll also see a nice little homage to the German barracks that we were in. And you'll notice the foreword. The foreword is written in this, the first book was by my buddy Sean McLaughlin. He was a private with me in 364 Armor back in the 80s. He ended up becoming a Mustang officer. He went green to gold. He retired a major. And he did a terrific job on the very first forward. I didn't know what I was getting into with these books and stuff, back then. I'm kind of like, look, would you want to write this? He's like, yeah, sure, what the hell? So he did. He did a great job. The second volume of Joe's, the forward was written by my good friend Steve Klein, retired Command Sergeant Major in 1st Special Forces Group. Great dude, great dude, lovable guy. And he did a great job. But this time I wanted to go back to my 364 roots. And I reached out to my buddy Alan Hummel, who was, he was a private with me as well. I want to say young private. He had about 5 years on most of his privates. He kind of got a little bit of a late start. In fact, I may actually do a whole episode with Alan Hummel if I can get him to come on the show. This guy is an armor legend. If you're in the Armor Corps, or were in the Armor Corps, the name Alan Hummel is somebody you may know. He stayed in 32 years. Most of us go in, we do our time, we knock down our 2, 3, 4, 6 years, whatever you're doing, and you get out, right? Alan stayed in. And he made a career. In fact, I think he said he was in Schweinfurt for 11 years, his first duty station, because he stayed there. That's where he met his wife, Sandra. And by the way, Sandra, I hope you're on the mend if you're watching this. I hope you were on the mend from your recent accident. So, but Alan made a career out of it. He eventually, funnily enough, he ended up back at the armor school where it all started for all of us, really, during the OSUT, during the AIT phase in OSUT. We're having basic and AIT at Fort Knox. They moved the armor school down to Fort Benning. Still, they renamed it back to Fort Benning, right? Can I say Fort Benning now? Can I say that? Can we stick with that? Okay. So he becomes the Command Sergeant Major of the armor school at Benning. So he's running the show back where it all started for all of us, Alan included, years ago, decades ago, right? He ends up going to become the Command Sergeant Major at the War College, right? And somewhere along the way, he ends up being a Command Sergeant Major out in NTC, out at Fort Irwin. The guy has been there and done that, and I have a lot of respect for him. That's 32 years is that's a half to a third of your life, depending on how you want to slice that pie. And he dedicated it to our country, and specifically in the armor branch of the Army. So, but he did a great forward. I think you're going to really like what he has to say. So definitely check that out. Now, on the back of the book, I'll flip this image around here. On the back of the book, you'll see a couple of things. Of course, I always put a funny quote on the back of the book. But this time, I wanted to point out on the book somewhere that every book sold helps raise money and awareness for American Gold Star mothers. Of course, you get a little wrap around. If you put this up here, you can see how the image sort of wraps around the spine there with the old German barracks. So so this is Joe's Volume 3. It is 378 pages of silliness, of the shit we got up to over there. All right. So that's the cover reveal. That's the cover reveal. Yeah, I'll drink to that. Hopefully you're watching, you got yourself a nice pour. You can drink with me here. It's pretty good stuff. So here we are, Joe's Volume 3. When's it going to be available, Scott? When's it going to be available? Here's the deal. It will be published sometime between 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern Time this coming Sunday, which is August the 9th. It will be published, or it's published already, but it will be available on Amazon sometime between 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, August the 9th. Technically, it's like at midnight, Greenwich Mean Time. I was a software engineer for 36 years or whatever. We all store date stamps in UTC GMT time. So I know why they do that. They make you convert the number. Anyway, it doesn't even really matter. So basically at midnight GMT, okay, Greenwich Mean Time, which translates to about 7 to 8 p.m., depending upon how long it takes them to actually get it live. It will be available August the 9th, Sunday night at 7 p.m. So get a copy. Get 10 of them. Give them out to your buddies. Write them a note in there. Say, hey, thinking of you. Here you go. Check this out. Again, every book we sell helps raise money and awareness for Gold Star mothers. You don't want to buy the book? Fuck you. Fuck you for not helping American Gold Star mothers. Okay? Hopefully no one from American Gold Star mothers is watching this particular segment, although they probably will. I'm not going to edit it. I'm not going to edit. It's my show. It's my show, and I drink and I cuss on my show. But seriously, help us out. Spread the word. Buy the books. A lot of people think, a couple of buddies of mine, this is kind of a little anecdote here. I'll go ahead and say it, Dimwit in particular, and Dimwit was on a couple episodes ago. Dimwit always makes jokes about, well, if I had that author money of yours, I could go off and buy whatever. Let me tell you something. The first book, I think I make something like 70 cents a book when it's sold. That goes to American Gold Star mothers. So I decided to raise the price on Volume 2, okay, to I think it's $19.99. But it's like $3 a copy or something like that, So most of it doesn't go to me or eventually to American Gold Star mothers. Right? Because, they've got printing costs, right? They got other costs. And then they take a percentage of the royalty rate above that, right? So let's say it's a $20 book. Like 10 of it is going to printing costs. So the other part of it, they take 60, I take 40 or something like that. So that 40% of half of that book price goes to Gold Star mothers. So it's not like that at all. Okay. Volume 3 is actually listed at $24.99 for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's more pages. It's substantially more pages than volume 1, and it is a bit more than volume 2. But also it's on a premium paper, which does help. It does feel a little different in the hands. It's definitely a pretty cool thing. So yeah, you got to factor all that stuff in, right? Unfortunately. But again, this is for a good cause. You want to read some funny stories about me and a bunch of shithead 18 to, I'll count Hummel in this, 25-year-olds, who are getting up to some no good overseas during the height of the Cold War. These books are fun. They're funny. Yeah, and I think I'll tell you a little bit about Volume 3 though, since it's just you and me, we're just shooting the shit here. Volume 3 is a little different. I wanted to. My wife and I were actually talking about this the other night because she was all excited. I said, it's it. I'm done. It's finished. And she was like, oh my God, that's great, And we started talking about it, and she actually proofreads the books for me. So she went through the book, and she was like, okay, she found some stuff, and I fixed it and everything. And a second set of eyes is always a good thing, right? You may think it's perfect if you're a budding author out there, but getting that extra set of eyes is very important. And she's not a military, she's not a veteran, she's not a military type. So for her, a lot of the stuff is more about grammar and spelling and flow and things like that. But she does enjoy the story. She's picked up a lot of the military vernacular, the words and the phrasing and stuff like that from me. But she was reading it, and she said, I asked her, I said, what are your top 2 or 3 stories, from the book? Out of curiosity, she told me, and we started talking, and I can't remember exactly how she asked the question, but basically my answer was, when I started writing 3, a little bit different than 1 or 2, I wanted to focus on specifically what I call the archetypes, right? These are types of people that you have in a barracks situation, right? You got the barracks lawyer, you've got the barracks thief. If you've ever lived in a military barracks, you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. There's about a dozen archetypes that are showcased in this book. There's other stories as well, but I wanted to focus on that, and I wanted to give you the reader a view of really what the ecosystem was really like. There's plenty of funny stories in here, don't get me wrong, but the stories that I chose they're all real, of course, but they showcase various aspects of those archetypes. What happened to the barracks thief? What happened to the barracks drug dealer? Yeah, back then overseas, yeah, absolutely. There was a barracks drug dealer in pretty much every barracks. The barracks philosopher, the barracks bard. There's so many different archetypes and personalities that sort of spring out of this unique thing called the barracks ecosystem, right? As you throw these kids into a big building, different sort of personalities pop up. But I wanted to focus on that. I will tell you this, the significance of the red boots you will not understand until you get to the last story in the book called Echoes. You've heard me talk about Echoes here before. No, I'm not going to tease it. I'm not going to spill anything. But I do think it is one of the most significant pieces of writing I've ever done, and I'm very proud of it. Once everybody's had a chance to get the book and maybe read it and start getting questions on Echoes, then I will chime in maybe a little bit more about what went through my mind in writing that story. So yeah, get your questions ready, right? Yeah, so this has been 16 months of me digging into the recesses of my brain and pulling out these stories. And there's a few stories in here that have been submitted by my buddies as well. You can't be there for every set of hijinks, right? But you hear about them, so you need to get the details from your buddies, that kind of thing. So yeah, Joe's 3 is done. Joe's 3 is done. It's thick. It's going to be, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I guess I'll have to have 1, 2, and 3 up here. I'll have to get another book stand. I guess I'll have to do that. But anyway, a couple of things. A couple of you have written me, by the way, before I sign off. A couple of you have written to me about, will there be a Joe's 4? I think I answered that question a couple of episodes ago. My answer then was basically, can I finish 3 first? So 3 is now done. Will there be a 4? I don't know. But I will say this. I am thinking about doing a Joe's Reloaded sort of hardback collection, at least of the first 3 volumes. A larger form factor, sort of a hardback coffee table type book. shoot me your thoughts on that. You know, it would require me to go back and refactor some things and kind of, and maybe even change the flow. I might even work in some more, some bonus stories perhaps in that version. Maybe order the stories a little differently so that all 3 volumes kind of flow together in a little bit better of a way if they're in one single book. So yeah, Joe's 3. Sunday, 7 to 8 p.m., somewhere in there, Eastern time. It will be available on Amazon August the 9th. As always, guys, keep your bullshit in overdrive, your canteen full of whiskey, and make all your future stories worth telling, maybe even for Joe's Volume 4. Rampage. We Pierce.
Dismissed.